USS Arizona, not the one at the bottom of Pearl Harbor, but the Civil War-era ship that both enforced and ran the blockade. We'll find out from the chairman of the Arizona Civil War Gunboat Foundation, Rob Christopher, when we return on Civil War Talk Radio.
Have you let your website go stale?
Wish you didn't have to wait for your web developer to return your call when you want to update content?
You don't have to.
Now you can easily and instantly manage your own website content using affordable Avalar technology.
Avalar is a website development and hosting company that provides turnkey internet solutions for companies like yours that need to stay focused on core business.
Avalar gives you the power to control your website and make updates and additions in real time without having to learn HTML or other complicated programming tools.
Websites powered by Avalar feature capabilities that attract more customers and enhance relationships with existing customers.
Avalar offers a multitude of leading-edge solutions, including lead generation and referral tracking, shopping carts and payment processing, membership management, and search engine optimization, to name a few.
Take advantage of the full power of the Internet using Avalar technology at www.avalar.com.
That's AVALAR.com.
Vitality is a natural expression of health, success, and fulfillment, and yet it's rare to meet people bubbling with vitality. That's because most of us push ourselves too hard, and when we trigger the internal alarms that tell us to change our diets, attitudes, or activities, we ignore them. Allowing outside pressures to override our internal alarms undermines our health, sabotages our success, and limits our potential. If you're ready to reclaim your natural vitality, to begin living a life you love, visit thevitalu.com.
You're listening to World Talk Radio, where the world comes to talk.
Welcome back to Civil War Talk Radio. I'm Jerry Prokopovich, talking today with Rob Christopher of the Civil War, the USS Arizona Civil War Gunboat Foundation. We've been talking about, Rob, the history of this remarkable vessel, the USS Arizona, its career as a Confederate blockade runner, its recapture, its role in the Gulf Squadron of the U.S. blockading fleet, and its actions against famous ships like the Queen of the West. But we're up to 1864, and we're getting close to the demise of this vessel, I think.
That's correct, yes. Now, the Arizona eventually will end up along the Gulf, and will blockade against the Confederacy in Texas and Sabine area, and eventually will be ordered back to New Orleans in late 1864 to be completely refit. At one point, Admiral Farragut is concerned about the ability of the ship to perform its duties just due to age and weathering and all those things that come along with the vessel as it's been engaged in battle and other situations. The ship itself had already served during this time period, dealt with, two different cases of yellow fever, where a number of the crew were lost due to sickness. So again, the concern of the ship was, is this a vessel that we continue on with, or do we just decommission it? So it's brought to New Orleans and is scheduled to be refit. And during this time, we're talking about a 4 or 5 month period where the boiler, the furnaces are completely redone. Now, interestingly enough, I have to bring this up at this time because there is some question about the loss of the Arizona. What could have happened to it? So we've got a few different theories. During this time in 1864, it is well known, well documented, that there were Confederate spies in New Orleans trying to sabotage vessels in a number of different ways. One of the most creative ways, and not a lot of people aren't aware of this, it's something called a Courtney torpedo. And that's something that basically looks like a large lump of coal, but is actually a hollow piece of iron that has explosive material inside it. And when the coal was thrown into the coal heap and then loaded up on board ships, the men were unaware of what was happening. They're just coal heavers shoving the coal into the furnaces. And when the stuff would heat up in the furnace, it would cause the vessel to explode. So just as a side note, I need to mention that. Now, the Arizona itself is, like I said, furnaces are pulled out. The boiler is raised about 14 inches, and during this time, all new pipes are going in, ironworks, all kinds of things are going on the ship. There's all kinds of people on the vessel. Again, just due to the fact that this is a specialized type of operation that's occurring, a number of people are contracted to do the work. Some we don't know their background. They could be saboteurs. We just don't know. Well, what we do know is that the Arizona, when the boiler was raised and the furnace is pulled out, the boiler was never lowered back down to the level that it was prior to it being raised, which caused the boiler to be about between 7 and 4 inches from the deck above. So it's sitting just below the deck above. And during the same time period, new pitch and hemp is being placed in the spacings between the planks. The record determined that the pitch was not scraped from above the boiler, so you have excess pitch or tar in place above the boiler. According to the Court of Inquiry on the loss of the vessel, we know that there have been a number of individuals that reported not only the boiler being too close to the deck above, but also the excess pitch and all, and nothing was ever done about it. So at the same time all this was going on, and as the work was being completed on the boiler and the furnaces being placed back under, the ship was now going to be completely repainted. Well, we're talking about an oil-based paint and then the application of benzene to quicken the drying process of the paint. Wonderful flammables at the time. So once the ship is completed, it goes out on its trials, and it actually will steam down towards Mobile. And on its way back, the vessel, it was reported that the aft storeroom floor was getting very hot. And this was reported hours before a fire would break out. And there was also a standing order that no flammable materials would be placed in the aft storeroom. Interestingly enough, at 6 p.m. that evening that the fire would break out, the engineer in charge, the assistant engineer in charge of the aft storeroom had ordered that some flammable materials be brought into that aft storeroom. That's, again, all in the record.
So this is February 28th of 1865.
Yeah, well, 27th at this time.
27th, and what we're anticipating here is a fire that is going to take place.
Yes. And, again, we obviously don't have enough time to go into all those details, but I'm going to give you the quick version. So what happens is that, according to the record, the pitch was heated up enough to drop down onto the boiler. The boiler itself sat, again, just below the aft storeroom, explaining why the aft storeroom floor was getting so hot. So the pitch drops onto the boiler, flames occur, burns through the hemp rope into the aft storeroom. The fire bell is ringing, cries of fire go out. This is at 9 p.m. At this point, the Arizona is in the Mississippi River. Now, just so you know, I am not allowed to disclose the location. This is because I work with the archaeology branch of the Naval Historical Center, and the permits that I receive to do the work that I do require that I do not divulge the exact location. But what I will tell you is that approximately 40 miles south of New Orleans is where the Arizona was when the fire broke out.
So was it underway at the time then?
It was underway, yes.
So it's in the middle of the river. It's not tied up at a dock.
Correct, yes. It's moving back. It's going back from Mobile back to New Orleans after some of its trials.
And as it sails, a fire breaks out.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And so the aft storeroom is now ablaze. Well, one of the major mistakes that we have, and again, it's in the record, it was ordered to open the aft storeroom door. Well, when they opened the aft storeroom door, the flames basically ignited everything in the aft storeroom. There was wasting rags, oil, lamp wicks, all kinds of, again, flammable material in that aft storeroom that was moved there at 6 p.m. earlier in the evening. Now it's all on fire. So the fire hoses are hooked up. Captain George Brown, who is now in command of the vessel, orders the Arizona to be run ashore or run into the bank on the east bank of the Mississippi River. That occurs, but again, the fire is quickly getting out of control. And in fact, in a matter of 9 minutes, the order to abandon ship was given. And due to the fact that the Arizona had just been repainted, and the benzene, again, a very flammable material, was in existence in the ship. So, plus you have to add to the fact that the new decks had not been holy stoned enough. They'd only been holy stoned once, and that's a sanding process to get oil and grime out of the deck. So the deck would catch fire. In fact, it was reported that when they put the hoses on the deck, all it did was move the fire around. You know how you have oil and water, so it just shifted the fire around. So the ship was abandoned, and eventually what would occur is that the ship would break free from the east bank of the Mississippi River and start floating downriver. And basically that's where I was doing my investigation on where the vessel could be. So what I looked at is I looked at old maps of the Mississippi River and how it might have changed in this particular area. I looked at old channel maps to see how the channel would flow, and knowing that basically the Arizona was going to get into the main channel and it was going to be floating downriver based upon the current, I was able to determine 3 specific locations where the vessel would go into the west bank of the river, which it did. So what happens then in July of 2001, I bring together a group of people and...
Can I just interrupt you for
sure.
a second and ask, what about the crew? Were any of them lost in the fire?
Yeah, there were 5 reported losses. 2 are believed to still be on board. What they attempted to do was open the cocks to flood the magazine, and 2 men went down to do that and never returned off the ship. The 3 others allegedly drowned. Now, I guess I should finish up this part of the story. Basically, when the Arizona broke free from the east bank and floated to the west bank, they were not able to open up all of the cocks. They were only able to open 8. So the magazine did not get completely flooded. Now, the reports say that the boiler blew up, and I took that in hand at the time. But there were other reports in the New Orleans papers of the period saying that the explosion that occurred on board the vessel was so severe that it actually blew out windows 2 miles away from plantation homes. So it was a severe explosion that did occur. And to me, it was just, I was thinking, I knew the magazine wasn't flooded. It didn't make sense that the boiler could possibly do that damage 2 miles away to plantation homes. And again, I was just speculating at the time. So...
but you think it may have been the magazine that exploded?
I think it was the magazine. And again, I was speculating until we got our sonar images. So the Arizona will eventually sink off the bank and down into the river.
I'm just wondering what can be left if it burned and then exploded. What is there left today to find?
Well, as I stated before, it's an iron hull ship.
That's right.
So and people always ask me that. But basically, what we got now is we have a ship that is sunk down into the river, and just to let you know, it's about 80 feet down, just depending on the depth of the river during the seasons. So we go out with our sonar. And again, this is July of 2001, and we, in our proton magnetometer, and again, a proton magnetometer is like a very elaborate metal detector. And we start picking up readings off of that first, and then eventually we get some images. Well, at that point, our images are clear enough to show what appears to be a 200-foot vessel, right in the location where it should have been based upon, again, the old currents and stuff. So we do a number of passes, we do a number of measurements and such, and we believe that this is the vessel. And then I go out a month later in August, and we use a different type of sonar imaging, which is digital, so we're going to get a lot clearer pictures. And in these pictures, we found that in one particular section of the vessel, first of all, you do have some good damage done. There's some cracks, actually, major cracks in the hull. But in one particular area, there's about a 15-foot hole coming up through what would have been the deck, which is not where the boiler was. So it's possible that the magazine did blow up based upon some of the forensic evidence that we have from our sonar images. Again, it's going to take a lot more research to determine that, but that's where we're at right now.
Now, your ideal, hopefully, is to be able to have divers go down and look at this?
Yes. Well, here's what we found in a number of our images. We can account for every one of the guns on the vessel. In fact, they were able to recover some of the guns before the vessel sank after the explosion. But one of the guns, one of the 32-pounders, was not recovered. And in a number of our images, we have just to the north of this vessel an image that exactly measures the size, length, width, and area of a 32-pound gun. So our objective, kind of like the recent raising of the gun from the alleged Blackbeard ship, is to raise this gun because we have the numbers, the identification numbers of each of the guns that would tell us that this is the Arizona. That
will be the decisive proof.
Right.
Well, I certainly hope you have success with this. A reminder, as you mentioned in an email to me, this is public property. This belongs to the U.S. Navy still.
Correct.
So what you're doing here is with the permission and cooperation of the Navy.
Absolutely, and the state of Louisiana.
And not to encourage individuals to go freebooting around looking for government property underwater, but do it as Rob is doing with the cooperation and permission of the authorities. Well, this is a fascinating story. I have certainly learned a lot about this particular vessel and the blockade in general. I encourage our listeners to look up your project, to send you an email, find out more about this, and learn more about the USS Arizona Civil War Gunboat Foundation and how they can help. And I hope you find that 32-pounder.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to mention too. We have just constructed our website. It's www.geocities.com/AZ Gunboat. Again, it's still under construction, but they can get some information and see.
So we'll find something there. geocities.com/AZ Gunboat.
Correct.
Don't miss it. Thank you, Rob, for being our guest today. Thank you for listening to Civil War Talk Radio.